I'm back. And so is Sean Strickland, two-time middleweight champion, Deshaun Strickland. Can't believe I'm saying this. This is an absolute insane result, insane upset. I am a little sad because I may have bet my entire house and life savings on Khamzat Chimaev, but it's fine, guys. I'll recover. I'm okay. But no, really, this is an amazing result for the middleweight division. I mean, I don't think any of us have really looked at this with Sean Strickland coming off of 2 title losses in a row. And I mean, none of us, even if some people thought that he was going to be a little bit more tricky than DDP, I don't think anyone thought that this fight was going to play out in the way that it did, with Sean stealing around with top control, which is just insane. And before this fight, I mean, Khamzat just had this unbeatable aura to him. But the sad part is that this fight basically went exactly how I would have thought the fight with Dricus du Plessis went. I mean, I've been thinking this for the longest time, that Khamzat Chimaev just doesn't have the best gas tank. And it sucks because this is what I said was going to happen. You know, I was so confident in Dricus du Plessis to win that fight that I would have put money on him if I could have. And it just sucked the way that he was dominated. I mean, Khamzat Chimaev made Dricus du Plessis look like he never grappled in his life, and that may be the case. All right, Dricus du Plessis may need to get the hell out of South Africa or wherever the hell he's training, and he probably has been doing that since we haven't seen the guy in what feels like ages. But yeah, it's MMA rock paper scissors. All right, somehow Khamzat dominates DDP. DDP beats Sean Strickland twice, but Sean Strickland beats Khamzat. Steals the first man ever to beat Khamzat. I mean, I'm still even in shock just saying it out loud. I mean, there's not really much else to say about this. We all saw the fight. First round almost looked like it was going to be total domination. Khamzat was able to take him down early, as he does in every single one of his fights. Takes his opponent down within 20 seconds and was holding him there, but Sean was making him work, was doing definitely a lot more than DDP, and was actually trying to stand up. Did stand up in some moments, but just got relentlessly chain grappled, as Khamzat does. But something was just different about this fight. I think that, Sean was making him work, and man, it could have been a lot of different factors. It could have been a bad weight cut. It could have just been him cracking under the pressure of such a big fight, leading to him dumping all of his adrenaline in the first round and just not having much left for the rest of the fight. In the second round, he wasn't looking that bad, but he definitely was looking a bit fatigued, especially compared to Strickland. But I just chalked that up to Strickland in general having good cardio. But man, the tides definitely started to shift when Khamzat went for that takedown in the second round. And it was like he pushed Sean to the back of the cage, or pushed Sean to the cage, and like bounced off of it and landed in Khamzat's guard. And from then on, Sean was in control for the rest of the round, which was incredible to watch. I'm sure we all started to feel very patriotic in that moment. And yeah, I think that really did a number on Khamzat psychologically. All right. It's like these guys who are just so dominant all the time, it's like they just can't handle it when they're put in bottom position. And it's also, of course, very tiring being in bottom position. So by the time the third round started, Khamzat was looking real tired. And from that point on, he pretty much abandoned the wrestling and just started to strike with Sean. And it wasn't really looking good for him because Sean is definitely the more seasoned striker, but was really not doing that much himself. He was mostly just sticking the jab out, throwing a right hand every once in a while too. Wasn't even really kicking much, obviously, because he did not want to get taken down. But it was pretty much a striking battle for the next 3 rounds. And in Sean Strickland fashion, he just barely edges it out, wins round 3, wins round 4, actually. Khamzat did actually, I say it was a striking battle for the rest of the fight, but Khamzat did take him down in the 4th round, edged out that round in my opinion. But the 5th round, pretty much all the judges gave that round to Sean Strickland. They pretty much left it all out there by the end. Khamzat's forehead basically looked like hamburger meat because he basically just resorted to blocking Sean's jabs with his forehead, using the good old Yuri Prohaska method of blocking punches, which is real funny. But yeah, he did end up breaking Sean's nose. I think it was either in the 3rd or 4th round. So he was in there, and it was kind of a weird fight because these guys had so much animosity, going into the fight. They had so much security. It was insane. And it looks like, they settled their beef pretty much immediately. Khamzat even wrapped the belt around Sean, which is just Did not expect that, but obviously, Sean, after winning, he basically admitted that he was just trying to sell the fight. But I think part of it too, I think he really did everything he was saying. I think he really did believe that. But yeah, it was just one of those times where, they kind of just left it all that animosity. Once the fight actually started, it was just pure professionalism and competitiveness, which I appreciated. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all there is to it. It sucks that the one time that I chose Hamza is the time where everything that I've been saying about Hamza all this time got absolutely exposed. Um, obviously the guy doesn't have the greatest cardio in the world. Maybe had a rough weight cut, probably missed weight, but we're just not going to talk about that. The UFC is just going to brush that under the rug. I wouldn't be surprised if Hamza would try to move up to 205 after this fight. But anyways, just an absolutely incredible win for Sean Strickland, two-time middleweight champion. Low key is starting to build up one of the greatest resumes at middleweight. It's just insane to think that he's not only beaten the best, arguably the best striker in the middleweight division and long reigning champion in Israel Adesanya, and has now beaten probably the greatest grappler, actually definitely the greatest grappler in UFC middleweight history, also undefeated, by the way. I mean, both as a massive underdog. This fight, he closed out as almost a plus 400 underdog. Back in the Israel Adesanya fight, he was a plus 600 underdog. I mean, wow, if you put money on Sean Strickland, you are a happy, happy man. But I just don't think any of us expected this result. But just an incredible win for Sean Strickland. And I'm very happy to see things finally moving along in the middleweight division. We got Hamza out of there. I know there's a lot of Hamza fans out there, but, I'm happy we got a real American as champ. And I'm pretty sure he's going to get himself a rematch with Nurmagomedov. And that's going to be a fun fight because I think he's going to spank him all over again. There's no way that you can poke Sean Strickland in the eyes. All right, it ain't going to work on him. Didn't work in the first fight. I don't think Nasruddin has improved that much to win himself a UFC title, and I don't think we want that. All right, I think we'd all stop watching the sport. All right, if we had him as champion. Tato Atara and Joshua Van was also an absolutely sick fight. Joshua Van absolutely cemented himself as the true flyweight champion. For anyone saying he was a paper champion, you can eat your words. It's just crazy to me because I've been watching Joshua Van since he got in the UFC, and I always really liked him. And he went through a period in after he got his first loss to Charles Johnson, which, by the way, just how good is Charles Johnson, right? Charles Johnson is like the Michael Johnson of the flyweight division. He can beat absolute champs, knocks out Joshua Van, but then gets knocked out by Alex Perez. Incredible. Joshua Van, after that first loss, he went on an absolute tear, was super, super active, was having so many fights. I was saying to myself, oh my God, he's fighting again so soon, and went from unranked to champion and cemented it with this title defense. Knocks out Tatsuo Taira in the 5th round. Was a little bit of an early stoppage. I would have liked for this fight to go to the distance, but even if it did, I think that Joshua Van had it pretty clearly. It was sort of similar to the main event where the first round, Tatsuo Taira was out grappling Joshua Van. This is kind of what I expected to happen. I did end up picking Tatsuo Taira to win this fight because he was just much bigger. The grappling, I thought that Tatsuo Taira actually fights pretty good on the back foot. But yeah, I knew that Joshua Van had good boxing, and he really showed it off in this fight. We have seen Tatsuo Taira get outboxed before by Brandon Royval of all people, but I thought that Taira, I thought he improved a bit. He looked really good in the Moreno fight, but I guess it just wasn't enough. His grappling is clearly really good, but in the striking, on the feet, he was a sitting duck for Joshua Van, and Joshua Van has absolutely sick boxing. The rematch with Pantoja is going to go absolutely crazy. I think we're all going to be very excited for that. And honestly, I'm liking Joshua Van's chances. Don't get me wrong. If Alexandre Pantoja can come back after that injury loss and win against Joshua Van, it's going to be even more impressive now that he's gotten a title defense. And I think Pantoja will absolutely be cemented at that point as probably the greatest flyweight of all time. But I like Joshua Van's chances. Now that I've seen this performance, he's shown that he can weather the storm, that he can defend takedowns from an absolute stud grappler, and his boxing is good enough to get knockouts in championship fights. Incredible performance by Joshua Van. I'm glad that he's still champ. when it comes to Alexander Volkov versus Waldo Cortez Acosta, even though some may be calling this a robbery, and I can understand because Volkov had absolutely no moments in this fight where he hurt Waldo Cortez Acosta. Maybe he hurt him a couple times to the body. Those body kicks were pretty nasty. But yeah, I just think it came down to the fact that Waldo Cortez Acosta was swinging bombs the whole entire time, and he wasn't really landing too much in the first 2 rounds. He got outstruck in the first 2 rounds. So Volkov gets himself a win. Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley. This one was a tough one because I do like Joaquin Buckley. I would have hoped that he would have improved his takedown defense. Don't listen to his Instagram videos where he said that he did absolutely nothing but boxing for this camp. I'm sure he was working on his takedown defense, but grappling is just one of those things, like the commentary team said, where it just takes a long, long time to bridge that gap when someone's just levels above you. We've seen that in the card later as well once we get to the Joel Alvarez and Amazov fight. But yeah, man, Joaquin, didn't really have any moments in this fight. It was 30-27 in my opinion across the board. And it was real interesting for me because right now it's saying on the website that Buckley was the underdog, and he was the underdog at the beginning of the day and for most of the fight week. But for some reason, the odds started shifting. Like right before the fight happened, a lot of people started putting their money on Buckley, I guess, because he ended the fight as the favorite, which was a little crazy to me because honestly, I did pick Buckley to win this fight. I would have hoped that he would have had better takedown defense and he would have knocked out Sean Brady. Sean Brady doesn't have the best chin. He's been knocked out before. And that's why this fight was so interesting. This fight, it was like, two guys both coming off of losses, and they're both basically going up against what screwed them over in their last fight. Buckley got wrestled in his last fight and Brady got knocked out, but Brady's grappling ended up giving him the victory in this fight. So good win for Sean Brady. Joaquin Buckley, sadly, he's going to have to go back to the drawing board, and he also might need to he probably needs to put on a bra. We move on to King Green versus Jeremy Stephens. Bad matchmaking on the part of the UFC because I don't know what they're doing giving the dinosaur Jeremy Stephens and feeding him to Bobby Green. Like Bobby Green at this point, like we can make fun of him and say that he's old and call him Unk and all that, but at the end of the day, he's getting wins. He's good. He's gotten a finish in his last 3 fights. King Green, I want to see him get another crack at the rankings. He was in the rankings just a while ago before he got knocked out by Mauricio Rufy. And I think when we saw that fight, I think a lot of us thought, at least when I saw that fight, I thought, oh, Bobby Green is obviously just getting a little old at this point. Mauricio Rufy's not that good, but clearly he is that good. Bobby Green himself is really, really good. They put him up against Jeremy Stephens, who just lost to Mason Jones, who is tough, but he's not the greatest fighter in the world. And that makes 8 losses in a row for Jeremy Stephens. Has yet to see a victory since like 2018. I don't even remember his last win. I was not even watching the UFC. All right. In 2018. I think I was in middle school when Jeremy Stephens last got a win. The hardest hitting 145er. Who the fuck is that guy? We move on to Atiba Gautier versus Ozzy Diaz. Atiba Gautier does what he needs to do. Middleweight Francis Ngannou gets himself a nasty knockout in the second round against Ozzy Diaz. Poor Ozzy Diaz. Why did he take this fight? This fight was already supposed to get scheduled and booked a while ago. And then Gautier got booked with, short replacement in, I think his name was Puliev, which was a close fight actually, but ends up getting a guy who's low-key better than Ozzy Diaz and wins that fight. So I don't know what he was thinking, Ozzy Diaz. I don't know, maybe the UFC, slipped him a little bit of extra cash underneath the table because this fight felt like suicide for him. At least he made it past the first round. He made it past the first round and was kind of starting to craft it up a little bit, but middleweight Francis Ngannou is going to do what he does best and smash. And that's what he did. We move on to Joel Alvarez versus Yaroslav Amazov. I got this one wrong. I picked Joel Alvarez as an underdog. I thought it was a little crazy that he was an underdog, even if it was just slightly at 160. But I'm like, man, Joel Alvarez is really good. People forget, man, this guy beat Arman Tsarukyan. He's got that lighter man skill. He didn't do that great against Vicente Luque, but Vicente Luque is coming off a win. So clearly he's still got it. So Yaroslav Amosov has a great record before this fight, 29-1. Crazy record for a guy who's only 31 years old. And I knew that he was a great grappler, but I saw Neil Magny, test him a little bit. Neil Magny himself has pretty decent grappling. And even though he did get submitted, he got submitted in like the last second of the fight. And which, by the way, I won money off that. And that was a nail biter because I needed Yaroslav over here to win by submission. And he literally got it in the last second. That is pretty impressive, but I guess at the time I didn't put too much stock in submitting Neil Magny. When looking back, Neil Magny's been submitted before, but it's still impressive. And yeah, Yaroslav Amosov, he looked like he was levels above Joel Alvarez, and he was just absolutely suffocating. Joel Alvarez basically did nothing. All right. He got no moments. He got no damage off. And yeah, I should have picked this guy, man, because, Joel Alvarez, who knows what he was doing training. Yaroslav Amosov was over here fighting in the Ukraine war and going back to his blown up house to pick up his old Bellator belt, which is an absolute savage move. All right. This guy was basically living like real life COD 4. All right. As his training. All right. So I'm excited to see where he goes next. We move on to Grant Dawson versus Mateusz Rambetsky. Sadly, I think I picked him as well. Uh, I should say, I know I didn't post my video with my picks, but you guys are just going to have to trust me when I say which ones I got wrong here. But I think I did pick Rambetsky as an underdog. In general, I think my thought process was I'm going to pick against the smudge grappler / jiu-jitsu guy. Grant Dawson is pretty underrated, but he's a smudge grappler. I ain't going to pick a smudge grappler to win the fight. Rebecki, he's powerful. He's like a tree stump, rooted to the ground, even though he does stay light on his feet. I thought he has pretty good takedown defense. He was out scrambling Orobai, who's a great grappler in certain moments. So even though in a lot of his fights, I did say the thing that I'm nervous about in this fight was that Rebecki takes a lot of damage in every single one of his fights. Even the fights that he wins, he takes so much damage. And yeah, man, I think his career is done for. Even though he's not that old, he just has so much mileage on him. And every single one of his fights, it's a war. And it's like if you have enough of those fights, it's going to start affecting you. And, immediately, I'm not going to lie, I realized right as the fight started, my broadcast was a little behind. So I was behind by like a minute, right? I skipped 1 minute into the fight. I'm just like, all right, I'm not going to miss that much, right? Krambetsky's already bloodied up, nose broken, and already being out-grappled by Grant Dawson. And that was pretty much the story of the whole fight. Grant Dawson was out-grappling him the whole time, ends up getting the submission in the third round. Very emotional victory for him. Was crying, good for him. I'm happy for Grant Dawson. Betsky, man, he just takes way too much damage in his fights, man. I think it's really I think his brain is a little scrambled. I would like to see him retired. I don't want to see him take any more damage. We move on to Jim Miller versus Jared Gordon. Oh my God, Jared Gordon might be an idiot. Going up against 40, what is it, like 40? How old is Jim Miller, man? He's 40-something. 40-something, built like an orangutan. Man, this was just crazy. Jim Miller gets the submission in round 1. I don't know what the game plan was for Jared Gordon. I might be a little salty here because I picked Jared Gordon, but I just don't understand what the game plan was. Jared Gordon is the younger, more explosive guy. And yeah, I guess he has pretty decent grappling as well. But Jim Miller at this point, even though, he used to be pretty powerful, he used to have a pretty nasty low kick, probably still has a pretty nasty low kick, and used to be like the apex knockout guy. At this point in his career, I think all he has is his grappling. When these guys start to age, that's kind of the last thing to go. The first thing to go is their reaction speed and their speed in general. So why wouldn't you exploit that if you're Jared Gordon? Why wouldn't you want to keep this fight on the feet? Why are you trying to take down Jim Miller, man? And I get it, it's a fight. He probably just forgot about the game plan. I don't know what the game plan was, but I wouldn't assume it would be to take him down. Jared Gordon catches a kick from Jim Miller. It wasn't even the first time he took him down. He was trying to take him down, or maybe he caught a kick earlier and he did the same thing, but he caught a kick and followed him down, tried to take him down, gets caught in a guillotine. I literally said out loud, we're not tapping to a guillotine, but I forget, I thought these were high-level MMA fighters. I thought these were, like, actually good fighters, but no, we're tapping to guillotines. You know what I mean? That's just crazy to me. I would let myself fall asleep before tapping to a guillotine, man. Like, come on. That's just crazy to me. So Jim Miller gets himself another victory, gets himself another contract extension. So might actually manage to get 50 fights in the UFC, which is a record that, I don't see anyone really breaking. So good for Jim Miller. Well, actually, no, I guess Kevin Holland. I guess if there's anyone who's going to be, it's probably Kevin Holland. But we move on to Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. This one also hurt. I picked Marco Tulio to win this fight, and he was winning this fight. The first round, it looked like he was cruising, man. It looked like he was cruising. Or actually, no, I think he won the first round, and he was doing good in the second. He was cruising. And at the end of the second, I think Roman Kopylov stole the round by knocking him down bad, and Marco Tulio just never recovered, never got back into the fight from that point on. Gets the round stolen. Round 2 went to Kopylov, and round 3, Kopylov, again, he didn't even do much. Kopylov, I picked him to lose this fight because I just feel like he makes bad fight IQ mistakes. Man, I wish you guys would have seen my video, my predictions video, because said this quite literally. He makes bad fight IQ decisions, and he could have gotten himself a knockout. He could have gotten himself a TKO, but maybe it was fatigue. But he hurt Tulio badly, and he decided to start wrestling him, grappling him. Even the commentary team was confused. They're like, what the hell is this guy doing? You see this sometimes where like guys get hurt and then for some reason they go towards the grappling. Maybe you don't know what it's like, maybe when you're actually in there in the octagon and the lactic acid is filling your muscles and the fatigue and all that. And, but wouldn't you think wrestling would make you more tired? Or, well, the thing is, I guess they're not actually wrestling. He's just kind of clinching him. I guess you could get good recovery from there. But still, you would have loved to see him finish the fight if you were in Kopylov's corner. And yeah, man, Kopylov is back in the win column. Doesn't really deserve this win, but he gets it anyways. I shouldn't really say that because he caught him clean, man. Caught him clean. That's all there is to say. Tulio, that really sucks for him. That really sucks. People forget, man. Tulio beat Belaguri on the Contender Series. Nowadays, that sucks, man. We move on to Pat Sabatini versus William Gomez. Pat Sabatini gets himself a win over William Gomez. It was pretty close in my opinion. Just overall, close fight. William Gomez does what he does and lands good body kicks, but just doesn't really have the output necessarily. So Pat Sabatini just outstruck him, won the fight. That's all there is to say about this one. Basangor Susukayev gets actually a pretty good win over Jordan Santos. Jordan Santos is pretty good, man. I thought that this man was just an absolute sacrificial lamb. I thought he was going to get absolutely slimed out, and he did get submitted. He did get choked out cold and slept, all right? But he was in there the whole time. Susukayev, he's really weird, all right? This guy, he loses the fight until he's not. It's like he just chooses when he wants to finish the fight. Whenever he wants, he can just finish the fight, right? Because he doesn't ever outstrike his opponents, right? And I felt like he was low-key, like, if this fight would have gone to decision, I feel like he probably would have won anyways. But, he was getting outstruck at points. And Jordan Santos, man, good for him. It's like the Jordan Santos, but I'm guessing it's like a Django situation where the D is silent. So yeah, man, I want to see Jordan Santos fight again. All right, he made this fight an absolute firefight. Basangor Susukayev gets himself another win in the UFC. We gotta give this man a ranked opponent. And then we finish things off with Clayton Carpenter versus Jose Ochoa. Jose Ochoa gets it done over Clayton Carpenter. Was also pretty close. These boys have themselves a little scrap to start off the card. But Jose Ochoa lands the more impactful shots. I did pick him to win because I thought that his power was gonna be a factor. I think pretty much everyone was saying that. So yeah, and also I got the Susukayev fight right. Just saying. Pat Sabatini as well. So overall, we did okay with the picks, but we got obviously some major upsets, especially in the main event. But what can you expect? Sean Strickland gets it done in the most Sean Strickland way possible by split decision. And I can't even find to get myself to be mad, but I got the pick wrong. I'm happy, guys. Next week, we got ourselves a boring fight in the Apex on the same time, on the same night as we got ourselves a big Netflix card. Who knows? I might do a video covering the Netflix card, Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano, but we will definitely also be making a video on Mekwes Costa versus Arnold Allen. As I said in my very first video, we're finally at this card, and it's going to be a decent one, so a like would be appreciated. a subscription as well to stay notified on all my latest uploads. And I will see you guys later.